Hi everyone, I'm Lady Teddy. I'm going to be reading to you guys from Magium, which is a text-based choose-your-own-adventure story app that is free on both Android and iOS, and I highly recommend it. It's really good. There's a lot of different paths that you can take. Currently, we are doing a Smart Good Berry read-through, and we are in the middle of Chapter 6, Book 2. I know a lot of people, when they're listening to this, they like just falling asleep or relaxing, and that's totally fine. But if there are people who do want to participate, when I get to choices, if it's not a good or a smart move, I will generally read out what the choices are and give y'all about a minute to pitch in. Then I'll go with what the majority of people vote. If no one says anything, then I will just make the choice. There's absolutely no pressure. I have turned all sound effects off, so I wouldn't recommend redeeming any of those. And I know we're in the middle of the story, so if anyone has any questions of what exactly is going on, feel free to ask. So, I'll turn the sound off, go over to the Magium. Hello, Real Jet. How's it going? Going to sleep, aka lay down and stay up for like 2 hours. Good night, sweet dreams. Thank you for hanging out. It was good to see you. Sorry I didn't play Minesweeper. Thank you. Okay. What just happened? The party just managed to get out alive from a life or death arena because they were being punished for something, and if they survived, they get their freedom. So they did survive. This very powerful Stillwater girl recruited them for a mission to help kill the King of Ullendor. In exchange for her giving them a device that will help them complete their objective in this tournament that they are participating in. What else? Wow, spaciness just hit me like a truck. And because they need to get the papers confirming their freedom, they are going to be forced to spend another night in Thilius, the kingdom that they're currently in. And yeah. Well, Enrique says, since it's been settled that you'll be spending the night in Thilius, I believe that there will no longer be any objections to the celebration tonight, yes? Darren sighs. Do as you wish, he says. Perfect, Enrique says. I know some of the best cooks in Thilius, and there are still plenty of expensive wine bottles left in the cellar. Tonight we shall have a feast that will put the king's royal banquets to shame. Just make sure you don't overdo it, Darren says. We'll be leaving before sunrise, so we can't afford to stay up too late into the evening. Once we wave goodbye to Enrique, we start heading towards the castle of Thilius at a leisurely pace. As soon as we set out, Araka begins to make Araka begins making muffled noises again from inside her amulet. What is it, Araka? Flower says as she opens the amulet. I can't believe the nerve of that girl, Araka shouts with her voice sounding like 3 separate voices talking at the same time again. Did you see what she did? She just closed my amulet without even so much as a hello. Is that any way to act with someone you've known for hundreds of years? You know, I've always meant to ask, I say to Araka, what's up with that voice of yours? Most of the time it sounds normal, but there are times when it sounds as if there are 3 of you talking at the same time. Is that what happens when banshees get old? Oh, no, it has nothing to do with age, Araka says. Those 2 other voices are from the first 2 spirits that I absorbed while I was still in the magical plane. Elkira and Renaru, I think. It's been too long. I don't remember their names that clearly anymore. The first 2 spirits, I say. You mean that you've absorbed more than 2 spirits while you were on the magical plane? Oh yeah, I've absorbed hundreds of them, Araka says. The method that I used for absorbing the other spirits was still experimental when I used it on Elkira and Renaru, which is why their voices still pop up from time to time, even after all those thousands of years. I didn't have any more problems with absorbing the other spirits, though. But didn't the other spirits try to stop you? I ask her. Of course they did, Araka says, but I was only getting stronger with each spirit that I absorbed, and by the time the really strong spirits figured out what I was doing, I was already too much for them to handle. What happens with the spirits that you absorb? Is this the reason why you got banned from the magical plane? I'm inclined to go with this one, but if anyone would like to help me pick the choice, now is your chance. Otherwise, I will go with the second option in about a minute. Okay. Is this the reason you got banned from the magical plane? Areka says, it was probably part of the reason. It was mostly because of my murdering sprees, I think. Murdering sprees? I say. Yeah, Araka says. There isn't really much to do in the magical plane. Most of the spirits just tend to live for the sole purpose of maintaining their existence. It's pretty uncommon for a spirit from the magical plane to die of old age, so as long as you don't do anything too risky, you could theoretically go on living forever. That's why it's so hilarious to kill a spirit in the magical plane. On the earthen plane, most living beings will expect to die at some point. But the great majority of the spirits on the magical plane fancy themselves as immortals. The desperation with which they cling to life in their final moments cannot be compared with that of any being on this plane of existence, which is what makes it all the more satisfying when you do them in. So, what did the gods have to say about all of this? I say. Didn't you say that they live on the magical plane too? Why couldn't they just unite against you in order to kill you off? Ha ha! Rekka says, you don't think they tried? The gods are nothing special. They're just magical spirits like the rest of us. They only started calling themselves that after they found out that they could harness energy from the beings on the earthen plane. As long as they make themselves into their loyal followers. Once they gained enough followers, all that worshipping went to their heads, and they began to call themselves gods, as if they were somehow more special than the rest of us. All of their godly powers that they gained from their worshippers still didn't help them when I killed half of their kind by myself, though. You killed half of the gods on the magical plane? I ask her. Yeah, but to be fair, it was mostly the weaker ones who didn't have that many followers. Areka says, the stronger ones like the god of death, the god of fate, and the god of time managed to hold their own against me pretty well. So we went on a bit of a stalemate for some time while I went to absorb more spirits and they tried to gather more followers. Was this when they decided to ban you from the magical plane? I ask her. No, it was sometime after that. Areka says, when they realized that they couldn't amass their followers with the speed that I was absorbing other spirits, they had some sort of meeting where they invited all the powerful spirits in the realm, including the ones who did not call themselves God, like the golden fox, who was still in the magical plane at that time. In the meeting, they decided to ban me from their realm, along with every other female spirit that belonged to what you people call civilized races. Here on the earthen plane, you know, like humans, elves, gnomes, and the like. Wait, you have different races in the magical plane? Or the fox originated from the magical plane. How did she end up here then? Oh. I'll decide in the moment. If anyone would like to help me pick between one of these two options, now is your chance. Otherwise, I will be picking one of them in about a minute. Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. The fox originated from the magical plane? How did she end up here then? Why don't you ask her yourself? Araka says. You're friends with her now, aren't you? Friends isn't exactly the word that I'd use to describe our relationship with her. I say, Edie, good night. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for helping me stay hydrated. Well, the only thing I know, Ureka says, is that even before I got banned from the magical plane, the fox seemed to have taken a great interest in the animals that lived here in Barathia. They were much more intelligent than the animals on the other continents, for some reason, and from what I've heard, the fox always talked about how unfairly these animals from Barathia were being treated on the earthen plane. I'm not sure when she decided to come here, but from what I could tell, she must have made a pact with all of the plants and animals from the region so they would join together in some sort of symbiotic relationship that would help her maintain a physical body in exchange for her offering them protection. I don't really know more than that since I've been trapped in a mountain while all of this happened. So, I say, getting back to your exile from the magical plane, do you know why the gods and all the other powerful spirits decided to also ban the other female spirits and not just you? Oh, Uraka says, it's because I was only absorbing female spirits from the so-called civilized races, which made them think that there was something dangerous about the others too, and that they could turn out like me if left alone for too long. In reality, the only reason why I was absorbing just these types of spirits was because they were the only ones that had auras similar to mine, for even similar enough to mine for me to even be able to absorb them, given that I'm an elf. There was nothing dangerous about the spirits I was absorbing. The danger of someone coming up The danger of someone coming up with the same absorption technique as I did is still there, even after they threw us all out, but I wouldn't expect them to invent anything similar anytime soon, since they're way too stupid to come up with a spell that's so complex on their own. Wait, you're an elf? I ask her. Of course I'm an elf, Araka says. What did you think I was? I was sitting in a place that made my feet lose circulation. Now they're both asleep. Oh, pins and needles are uncomfortable. Well, I don't know, I say. I always kind of figured that banshees were their own race, and I didn't really give it much thought until now. Banshees aren't a race, Uraka says. It's just a name that was given to us by the locals after we got banished to the Earthen Realm. You can clearly tell what our races are from our auras. Seriously, how bad is your magical sense anyway? Aluna is an elf too, but I bet you didn't know that either, did you? Petal's an elf? Petal's an elf? Flower asks, shocked. Why are you acting so surprised? Aluna says. You have a clear image of how I look inside your own mind. Don't tell me that this is the first time you've noticed my pointy ears in the past 2 decades. Oh, I've noticed them, Flower says, but I always figured that was just the way I imagined you, and that it didn't have anything to do with the way you really looked. So, I say, you're telling me that we've been treating you two as if you were part of a monster race, but all this time you were in fact elven spirits? Yes, that's what we're saying, Aluna says. It never ceases to amaze me just how bad these people can be at reading auras, Araka says. No wonder they still haven't figured out why their women can't be born as mages after all this time. If they can't even tell our races apart, then they have no chance of figuring it out by themselves. Did you? I say, but I pause for a few moments to rearrange my thoughts. Did you just imply that the reason why women cannot be born as mages on our earthen plane is directly related to your exile from the magical plane? After hearing my last sentence, Kate, who didn't seem to be paying very close attention to our conversation until now, has finally turned her head towards us, and she is now watching us very intently. So you finally figured it out, eh, berry boy? Araka says. What is it that tipped you off? Is it perhaps the fact that all of the banshees are practically humanoid female spirits? Or maybe the fact that female animals and monsters can still cast magic while your women are completely unable to do it, unless their auras have been drastically answered. Or maybe it's the fact that women only gain magic when they are possessed by banshees. That's a pretty big hint, if you ask me. Hell, you even had Flower as an example. Her element is fire, while Aluna's element is water. It's clear that she didn't just inherit magic from Aluna, right? Didn't it ever occur to you that in order to channel that energy from the magical plane, you need to actually create a link with a magical spirit that is at least somewhat similar to you in nature? You didn't seriously think that you could just pull that energy out on your own without some magical spirit to act as a funnel for you, did you? So, I say, what you were saying is that every one of the mages on the earthen plane is, in fact, linked with a spirit from the magical plane. Yeah, well, it's not like either of them is doing it consciously, Eureka says. Since they're on different planes of existence, the link does not need to be all close and personal. Most mages probably just link themselves to a spirit instinctively, and neither them nor the spirits that they are linked to ever notice this for the rest of their lives. But you can't link yourself unconsciously with the spirit anymore if all of the spirits with similar auras to you are here on the earthen plane instead. You can't link yourself unconsciously with a spirit anymore if all of the spirits with similar auras to you are here on the earthen plane instead. You can still try to cast magic through other means, sure, but then your aura would need to become something completely different, like that of the Stillwater girl, for example, or that of your friend with the ice magic. But how did these spirits manage to exile you to a completely different plane of existence? I say. Surely it can't have been as simple as just throwing you out and locking the door behind you. Oh, the exile. The exile was Memphis' idea, from what I've heard. Araka says he always did have the talent to come up with crazily elaborate plans like these, even though only half of them usually worked out in his favor in the end. Memphis is the god of fate, right? I say. Yeah, the one with the illusions, Eureka says. I'm not sure how he came up with the idea, or how he actually managed to convince so many of the spirits to follow his plan, but what they basically did was to mess with the whole system that is in charge of assigning spirits to the magical plane, and they reprogrammed it in a way that assigns female spirits of the civilized races to the earthen plane instead. You can do that? I say. Well, obviously it's not easy, Araka says, and you need a tremendous amount of energy to pull it off. Even if you figure out how to do it. But the bastards managed to rally enough of the spirits on their side to actually get the job done. So why didn't you just change it back to how it was after they sent you here? I say, shouldn't you have more than enough energy to do it after absorbing all of those spirits? I can't do it from here, Araka says. That's why we're stuck. If I were to undo everything that Memphor and his crew did, I'd need access to the Magium directly, and I can't do that from the earthen plane. The Magium? I ask her. Well, not really the Magium, Eureka says. You get what I mean. No, I say. I don't, actually. You know, Eureka says, I'm talking about the part of the Magium that specifically deals with the creation of magical spirits and then sends them down to the magical plane, You know how it works, right? Spirits aren't made to reproduce, even if they are split into males and females like you are here on the earthen plane. That's why there's this sort of nest, or whatever you want to call it within the Magium, that makes sure to pump out new spirits and to send them to the magical plane after the old ones die, in order to have roughly the same amount of spirits on the magical plane at any given time. Except these bastards managed to change the way it works. As soon as they were done tampering with the nest, it even sent the ones of us who were already there to the earthen plane, not to mention all the new ones that were created after that. Even from Varathia, the only parts of the Magium that I can access are the ones I don't need. The other parts of the Magium, I say, confused. I don't get it. Just how big is this Magium exactly? Wasn't it supposed to be some sort of powerful artifact that's only found here in Varathia? Araka takes a long break before she speaks again, during which we all wait for her answer in silence. She says, struggling to find her words, did you just ask me how big the Magium is? Yeah, that's what I said, I say. After another short pause, Araka suddenly begins to laugh, louder than she's ever laughed before, and she keeps on going for about 10 seconds before she speaks again. Hey, Araka says while she's almost out of breath from laughing. Hey, Luna, did you hear what he said? He asked how big the Magium is. Ha 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 ha. Stop laughing, damn it, I say as I finally snap. Tell me what you know about the Magium. Ha 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 ha, Araka says. You came here to fight for the Magium, but you don't even know what it is? Oh man, that's rich. I'd be crying from laughter if it wasn't for this amulet without a body. If I weren't living in an amulet without a body. I can't believe you people. You actually came here without even... Knock it off, I tell her. Are you going to tell me what the Magium is or not? Araka ignores me completely, and she just keeps laughing and laughing without giving any signs of planning to stop anytime soon. Threaten to spin her amulet 3 times until she gives me the answer, wait for her to stop laughing, and then ask her again. Good Barry, and I think smart Barry, would not antagonize her, even though she's a bitch. I wait for Araka to stop laughing by herself, and when her laughter finally dies out, I repeat my question. So now that you're done laughing, I say, are you planning to tell us what the Magium is, or not? Nah, Araka says. Why not? I say. Because there would be no fun in telling it. Because there would be no fun in me telling you directly, Araka says. You need to work for it. Isn't that why you are here? Let it go, Barry, Darren says as he places his hand on my shoulder. If she doesn't want to tell us, then it's unlikely that any of us will be able to change her mind. We'll just have to find out what the Magium is on our own. I know what the Magium is, Flower says. You do? I ask her. Yeah, Flower says. Well, what is it? I say. Oh, I can't tell you that, Flower says. Why the hell not? Because I'm not allowed to, Flower says simply. Not allowed by whom? I ask her. The kings? Are the kings of Varathia prohibiting you from revealing the true nature of the Magium to the tournament participants? I can't answer that question, Flower says, looking a bit uncomfortable. But why? I say. What will happen if you tell us about the Magium? We'll die, Aluna says bluntly. You mean that they'll send someone to execute you? No, I mean we'll drop dead, Aluna says, on the spot, quite possibly even before we get to tell you what the Magium actually is. What do you mean? Hadrick asks Aluna. Why would you drop dead just from answering a question? She's saying that they're under an enchanter's oath, Darren says. They've probably been made to vow that they won't reveal the nature of the Magium to anyone, either by the kings or by someone else. They're likely risking death even with what little they are telling us. We should stop questioning them about this before a flower accidentally lets slip too much information and kills them both by accident. Damn it, Hadrick says. I thought we were actually on to something for a second there. Why are you acting so disappointed? Darren says. It's not like you were ever aiming to win the Magium. You've already told us that you're only in this for the challenge. Well, yeah, Hadrick says, but imagine the stories we could tell if we managed to get our hands on the Magium before the end of the tournament. It's not going to happen, Darren says. Even if we find out what it is, it's probably too well guarded or too well hidden for us to be able to do anything about it. We should be focusing on our objectives and not on trying to cheat the system. Come on, let's get moving. We still need to do some shopping before we go to the king. As we continue to travel towards the castle, we notice that Layla and Kate are walking side by side, but they've hardly been exchanging any words since we left the arena. After a while, Darren pulls me to the back of the group where him and Hadrick are walking at a slower pace, and he asks me a question in a low voice. Hey, Barry, Darren asks. Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't Kate and the white-haired girl supposed to be childhood friends or something? Sort of, I say. They both grew up at the Beacon, but from what I've heard, Layla was more isolated from the rest of the group due to her being a Lasathi. Still, Darren says, if they've known each other for so long, don't you think that they should have a little more to talk about? Maybe we could give them a push or something. You know, help them out a bit so they can get over the initial awkwardness. I say we wait a little more, I tell Darren. Neither of them are exactly the talkative sort, and Layla is mute to boot. We should give them a bit more time to get comfortable around each other before we butt in. You know, I was thinking, Hadrick tells me, if Layla is a Lasathi, then shouldn't you be giving her Eden's message, the one about the still winter? Hey, you're right, I tell him. I'll tell her right now. Barry, Darren starts to say, but I ignore him and I call out to Layla. Hey, Layla! I shout. Yes, Layla writes as she turns around to face me. I've got a message from Eden, I say. Eden, Layla writes. You mean the Stillwater who threatened the dragon in the arena? Yeah, that's him, I say. He says to remember the still winter. Okay, Layla writes, looking very confused. Ignore him, Layla. Kate says, Barry's just being an idiot again. Layla turns around and Kate starts filling her in on the details regarding Eden and what my message meant. Damn it, Barry, Darren says in a low voice. Don't you think you should be taking this message thing a little more seriously? We almost died because of it the last time Eden brought it up. Relax, I whispered to Darren. My deal with Eden is already off. I was supposed to deliver his message to the first Lysathi I encountered, remember? The first Lysathi I met were Diane's friends. The reason why Eden almost killed us was exactly because I failed to uphold my end of the bargain. The fact that he got over it so quickly means that he never actually killed us shows that he never really cared about the deal in the first place. If he really wanted that message delivered, he could have just teleported next to Lysathi and told them the message himself, given that he already recognized their auras from a distance when I met them. Realistically speaking, Eden probably already forgot about the message, and he'll never mention it to us again. I hope you're right, Darren says. At any rate, my joke from earlier was not made without reason. Look. I then point towards Kate and Layla, who are still engaged in conversation, except the subject of their talk seems to have changed from Eden and his plans to how much of an idiot I am. See? I tell Darren in a low voice. Now they have something to talk about. Half an hour after our conversation, we reach the first marketplace. On our way to the castle. We decide to split up into our separate groups and to meet up again in the center of the marketplace once we are done with our shopping. While Kate goes together with Layla in order to help her buy some new clothes and a backpack, Darren and I head for the weapon shop so that I can buy a new crossbow so that Darren can buy a new magic. Darren and I head to the weapon shop so that I can buy myself a new crossbow and so that Darren can buy a new magical sharpening stone. In the meantime, Flower and Aluna went to buy some potions, while Hadrick, who did not need to buy anything in particular, went directly towards the center of the market, waiting for us to be done. Before we enter the shop, I showed Darren my scimitar and asking him if he could tell me what enchantments are cast on it. Darren says, this blade seems to only have 2 enchantments, sharpness and durability. However, the enchantments are done almost exclusively using elven steel, and the craftsmanship of the weapon is also of high quality. Are you planning to sell this? No, I'm keeping it, I tell him. I just wanted to know how well it measures up to the dagger that you enchanted for me. I'd say that they are more or less on the same level, right? Pretty much, Darren says. The quality of the metal is the same, but the longer reach could come in handy, so I see why you'd want to keep it. Once we are inside the weapon shop, the first thing I do is ask the shopkeeper where he is keeping his crossbows, and then I move over to the long-range weapons area to see if I can find anything that would fit my needs. What I am looking for in particular are repeating crossbows that can fire at least 5 bolts before being reloaded, like the one I'm currently using. 2 of the crossbows on display catch my eye, and they are both much better than the one I've got, but one of them is a lot more expensive than the other. With the amount of money I have right now, however, it honestly would not make much of a difference if I bought one or the other. The advantage of the expensive one is that I can use it to shoot 7 bolts before reloading, and it also has better power, range, and accuracy. The cheaper version is still better than the crossbow I have in every way, but it's not really comparable to the expensive one. And it can only fire 6 bolts before reloading. I look around the ranged weapons section on one more time to see if there aren't any other repeating crossbows that might interest me. But most of them are either not worth their price or or worse. I look around the ranged weapons section one more time to see if there aren't any other repeating crossbows that might interest me. But most of them are either not really worth their price or worse than the ones that I already have, than the one I already have. I guess I'm going to have to make a choice between the two crossbows that I was looking at earlier, after all. Buy the cheaper crossbow, buy the expensive crossbow. Considering he has plenty of money and this one's better, Smart Barry would definitely get the expensive crossbow. I decide to buy the more expensive crossbow. I don't have any other ranged attacks, so I shouldn't be thinking about saving money here. Quality is much more important. Once we're done buying what we need, I put my new crossbow inside my backpack, and then Darren and I exit the shop, heading directly for the middle of the marketplace. As we walk, I suddenly remember that there was something else I needed to buy while I'm still in town. So I tell Darren to go ahead, and I go enter the potion shop. Barry, Flower asks when she sees me enter the building, didn't you go to buy some weapons? Yeah, I say, but I remembered that I also had something to buy from here. What are you buying? Flower asks. An anti-poison elixir? I say, a little embarrassed. Flower's eyes turn blue, and Aluna just stares at me for a few seconds without saying anything. Remember to get an anti-disease elixir while you're at it, Aluna says finally. They're more expensive than anti-poison ones, and they'll only work for certain easily curable illnesses, but still. It would be rather pathetic if you were to die from some Varathian disease after having survived the tournament for so long. I pay the shopkeeper 10 copper pieces for the anti-disease poison elixir and a silver coin for the anti-disease elixir, and then I drink them both while I'm still inside the shop. Aluna does the same for all of the potions she's bought, and we both exit the building, heading towards the middle of the marketplace where Hadrick and Darren are waiting for us. As we approach them, I notice that the two of them are in the middle of a rather heated debate about who would be the winner in a duel between Azarius, the Sage of the West, and Talmac, the Sage of the North. Listen, Hadrick tells Darren, as we get closer, I know that Azarius can cast a lot of spells, but that's not the point. What I'm saying is that in terms of raw power, Talmac is way above the Sage of the West. Plus, he's an earth elementalist. What use are a bunch of spells when he can just crush you between two huge giant layers of rock? Alright, I think I'm gonna end here. So I'm gonna save. Chapter 6. Okay. Transfer achievements. Transfer. right, well, thank you everyone for listening in. I hope that you enjoyed that. It's been a really fun stream. So yeah, tomorrow's Friday, so I should be streaming probably Skyrim. And then I'll try to end early enough to continue reading more from Magium if people are wanting to listen to more. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day or night or whatever it is wherever you are. I'm going to sleep, so good night everyone. I appreciate you.